Let's call the meeting to order. Start out with roll call, Michelle.
Miller.
Present.
Anderson.
Present.
Wong.
Present.
All members of the committee are present and accounted for.
Okay, can we have approval of the agenda?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. First item is we need the approval of the minutes from, why don't we do both D and E as one? Can we do that, Michelle?
Yes, you can.
Okay. So approval of minutes from May 2nd or May 12th and also June 2nd.
I'd like to move to approve both sets of minutes.
Second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carried. Okay, that takes us to item number 2A, and that'll be the 2021 CISA 2 contract. And we have Joanne, I believe, is going to take the stage for this one, along with
Yes.
Missy.
Yep. Good evening, everybody. Every year, we contract out with CISA 2 for Professional Resource Center and Assistive Technology, as well as our Transition Advisory Network and Audiology. One change we are making this year is we have been contracting with CISA 2 in prior years to provide services for deaf and hard of hearing students. Upon review and our capability to recruit our own deaf and hard of hearing teacher on staff with our caseloads, we could support that FTE. We are not moving forward with a contract for the deaf and hard of hearing service teacher, but actually changing that to a vision teacher, as we have lower numbers of students that need vision services compared to our deaf and hard of hearing. So it would be more cost effective for us to contract that service instead of the deaf and hard of hearing. And our vision teacher retired last year, so we did not have a teacher to fill that position at this time. So I am looking to have this contract approved to be recommended to the full board for approval for our 2021 school year.
I'd like to make a motion to approve our CISA 2 contract.
Second.
Okay, discussion. Any? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to, let's see here, approve the 2020-2021 CISA 2 contract for membership and services to go to the full board for approval, say aye.
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 Those opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you.
Next item 2B is the bond refinancing. Joanne, you again?
Okay, yep, and I have invited Lisa Voisin to our meeting from Baird, and she has turned her screen on so you can see Lisa here in person, and she's going to talk about the refinancing opportunity that we have with refinancing our Fund 38 taxable general obligation bonds, which would save us as interest rates continue to decline, looking at some savings for next year. So Lisa, take it away.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Hopefully you have my 2-page handout. Otherwise, I could share my screen and maybe bring it up. But let me just give you the highlights. And if you want to get into more detail, we can. So Baird has a database of all the debt in Wisconsin school districts. Every debt issue, we have a database. And we run it periodically to see if there's any debt issues out there that could be refinanced. And your 2019 bond issue actually popped up on my database. And so I was on the phone with Joanne, just talking about the possibility of refinancing. We looked at all of your debt. You have quite a bit of debt. And I think we locked in the very lowest interest rates on that large referendum a couple of years back. So there's nothing there that could be refinanced. It's only the issue that we did last summer. So we're looking at, just to give you an idea, the interest rates on the 2019 debt issue is high 2%, 3% range, and we are over a full percentage point lower in today's COVID bond market. Our interest rates are incredibly low, and believe it or not, the bond market is really stable right now. I think it's just kind of the quiet of the summer is keeping the rates low. I can't say that they won't spike up in the next couple of weeks. They could. But for now, it looks like it would make some sense to refinance. So we're looking at savings of about $156,000 over the life of the debt issue. And I believe it's about there's about 5 or 6 years. There's 7 years left on the debt issue. So it's about $20,000 or more of savings on an annual basis. That is, direct budget savings after all costs. And I will say, after talking to my analyst about a half an hour ago, that these interest rates I'm using here are very conservative. We're much better today than what I'm showing you. But I have to stay conservative because I want to look good when we finally lock everything in. So the timeline, back up to the first page, the timeline is such that tonight I would just ask for approval from the committee to move forward. And then again from the board on July 14th to move forward. And then we would lock in as soon as we can with the formal adoption from the board on August 11th. So I'll pause there and see if there's any questions.
Any questions from committee members?
No, that makes a lot of sense. Thanks for the good explanation.
Thank you.
Lisa, I did have a question, and I guess could you, first of all, does my screen show up there? I was sharing the presentation. Yep. Okay. Question I have is regards to bullet point that you had on the first page. Bonds can be refinanced, or bonds to be refinanced are callable anytime with 30-day notice. Can you please explain that to, I guess, to everybody?
Yep. So the lender last year, in order to have full flexibility, agreed to the ability to prepay them at any time with a 30-day notice. So we would wait until after your July 14th board meeting. We would notify the lender that borrowed the money to the district last year. We would notify them, give them 30 days to say, hey, in 30 days, we're going to be paying you off because we have found a lower interest rate somewhere else. So it's just callable is the same thing as saying prepayable.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions from committee members? Okay, hearing none. Lisa, thank you for your presentation. And I believe we need a motion on this.
I'd like to move this forward for approval to the full board. And by this, I mean bond refinancing.
Okay. A second?
No, second.
Okay. So with that being said, any discussion? All right, so we have a recommendation for action to approve the procurement of the bid for the bonds refinancing recommendation to the full board. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you very much, Lisa, once again for your presentation.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Okay, moving along here, 3A, we have, this is the intermediate scheduling processing update, course proposals, and we have several people that are gonna, I guess, assist. Who's gonna start out?
Hi, John. This is Tony Bosco. Thanks for having us. We have Michelle Hendricks-Nora, Julio Lopez, Mitchell Breezemeister, and Kelly Grorud with us this evening. We're bringing 7 course proposals forward that we kind of previewed when we brought the intermediate schedule changes to you back in May or June And so we just wanted to bring those forth. Four of the new courses are for the 4th and 5th grade, the 2 Spanish classes and the 2 Project Lead the Way launch courses. And then academic labs, literacy extension and STEM extension. Those are primarily for our 6th, 7th, and 8th graders. One of the things that we did with the new schedule for the intermediate schools, we added an additional prep period for all of those teachers, and that actually gave us an opportunity to increase programming for our 4th and 5th graders in particular. They've been with the only real exploratory or specials option, which we call MAPE, Music, Art, and Phy-Ed, for a long, long time. And so the opportunity to give 4th and 5th graders a little bit more variety in the Spanish area as far as giving them an additional language development opportunity. And then with the STEM programming moving down into 4th and 5th grade and still being articulated with Project Lead the Way all the way through the high school is a great way to get the younger intermediate kids kind of starting to think about those STEM pathways that they'll get to participate in when they get to the high school.
Okay, is there any questions from the committee members?
No, I just want to compliment everybody on the great work that's being done with the STEM pathways and really supporting our CTE program. It's really cool.
I would agree with that as well. It's good to see that. And is this all part of included in the Ford Next Gen? Is this part of that process?
I can jump in on that, John. It's not specifically detailed in that. We're kind of going above and beyond, pushing our pathways and the exploration opportunities all the way down to our 4th and 5th grade students, so that they really have some great ideas and really start exploring some of these STEM careers, especially especially with hands-on project-based learning. So it's really engaging, and it's working with Kelly on this, and Meredith has been great because that way we can dovetail with all the science curriculum and all the standards. We're going to be meeting those next-gen science standards, meeting our national reading and writing standards. So we're just supporting the entire mission with this package here.
Great, thank you for the information on that, but and good stuff too. I really I appreciate it. I wish probably would have been more of that when my kids were going through, but it's I guess as good a time as ever. So this is an actionable item. So do we have a motion?
I'd like to move the approval of the proposed courses to the full board for approval.
Second.
Second.
Okay, any more discussion? All right, all those in favor of approving the intermediate course proposal for the alignment with proposed or previous approved intermediate schedule to go to the full board, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say no. Okay, motion carries.
All right,
Next
thank you very
item.
much.
Sorry. Thanks, Tony, for your presentation as well. Mitch, appreciate it. All the work you guys have done on that.
Thank you.
Next item is 4A, and that's the approval of the ad hoc committee for language barriers membership. And this one was just bringing forward the full slate of individuals for the language barriers ad hoc. Megan, you're heading that up, or you're helping with that?
Yeah, I've been working with Mr. Bosco. We're pretty excited. We've got a pretty good scope, I think, laid out for it, and we're just excited to approve these folks so that we can send out a doodle and determine our first meeting date so we can get this work going.
I'm curious to know, how did you get the community individuals, or how were they selected?
So we put out a feeler on, Michelle was kind enough to post something on the website, and I posted it around on Facebook as well. And folks who have reached out in the past and expressed concern, I reached back to them to make sure they saw that they had that opportunity. And actually, I'm glad you asked, because one of my questions was, in case somebody did miss the memo, I've never done an ad hoc before. I'm wondering if there are other folks who are interested in joining as members as we go forward, if there's a process for that, or if that's a possibility.
Up next, Monica, could I ask something quickly?
What was that?
John, Monica, I wanted to also let you know that it went out on Blackboard, and it was sent through email, text, and voicemail to all District of Beloit families. A request.
Thank you. And to answer your question, Megan, I believe that if there's additions to the committee, those need to come through for approval as well. That's been my understanding on it.
Sounds good. So if anybody does reach out, anybody at home watching now, and they're like, shoot, I missed the opportunity to do this, I guess just reach out to me, and if we need to bring forward new names for approval, I have no problem with that at all. But this is the list of folks that we have currently.
Okay, great. Okay, with that being said, do we have a motion on this?
And I would like to move to the list of membership for the ad hoc committee for removal of language barriers.
Second.
Okay. Okay, all those in favor of move approval of the membership for the ad hoc committee for language barriers, say aye.
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 Aye. All those opposed, say no. Motion carried. Great. Thanks, Megan, for your work on that as well. So, okay, next item is 4B, which is the equity audit update. And Dr. Keyser.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to bring this up to the committee and ask the committees to recommend to the full board to reopen the RFP process for the equity work. The board is going to be deliberating on short-term goals, and I feel it's important that our equity work is in alignment to those goals. And so, just would like to have that opportunity that we make that recommendation to the full board to reopen that process so that we can make sure our work is all aligned together.
Okay, I know this has been a topic of discussion within the board and it's been pushed around, but yes, and I think that does this actually need approval?
So yes, the full board approved some work a year ago, and so I'm working on getting some clarification to present at the full board, and just want to make sure that all of our work is aligned and that we don't have any hiccups along the way, so that the equity work can move forward. And one, and two, that equity work moving forward is aligned to the goals that the board will be working on next week, actually.
Yes. Okay. So, okay, so it's just a matter of reopening the RFP process at this point.
At this point, and more information will come on the 14th with the full board.
Okay. Okay. So there's really nothing. Do we need a motion on this? Just to push it forward, to reopen it?
In talking with Kyle and Rob, we just didn't want to go around the committee structure, so we wanted to start here to make that recommendation as a starting point. Certainly, the actions that were taken a year ago was at the full board level, and that's where I wanted to make sure that the discussion ended up. But I didn't want to skip this the committee's work.
Okay.
On that.
May I ask a question?
Sure.
I just want to make sure I'm understanding correctly. So we had previously approved an RFP with a certain company. Are you asking us to make a motion to recommend to the full board that we restart the RFP process, or are you asking us to recommend to the full board that we pick up where we left off with that previous contract that we voted to approve?
I'm glad you asked that question. I'm asking that we have a discussion at the full board meeting on the 14th around the reopening the RFP process. And then at that time, I would also be bringing forth information about the RFP that was approved a year ago so that we can handle both issues on that evening.
So then just to clarify, would at the 14th, we have the ability as a board, if the discussion leads us there, to just vote to uphold that previous RFP?
My understanding would be yes, because the full board acted on the original RFP, I will be bringing information and a recommendation about that, as well as the RFP process, the equity RFP process wholesale that I'm bringing forward now. Yes.
Thank you very much for clarifying. Thank you.
Yes. Appreciate the question.
Okay. Okay, then do we have a motion then to move this forward to the full board?
Yeah, I move that we move the recommendation to hear about the RFP process as well as information on the previously approved RFP for the equity audit to the full board for the July 14th meeting.
Second.
Okay, great. Any more discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Megan, did you respond?
I thought I did. Aye.
All those opposed? All right, motion carried. So moving on to, thank you, Dan, for that presentation or that update on that. I think we're all looking forward to getting that moving along as quickly as possible. 5A, which is teachers on-call metrics. And Joanne, I know Tanya and Joanne going to present on this?
So this is Tanya. Good evening. I can take the lead, or Joanne, do you prefer to?
Nope, absolutely. I was going to hand it off to Tanya to talk about our teachers on call.
Okay, thank you. All right, so in 2018-2019 school year, Teachers on Call was contracted with the overall goal that they could deliver some higher substitute fill rates. And so to give you some background information, HR previously used our internal HR processes to fulfill substitute assignments here in the district. I had attached what Teachers on Call calls their monthly report card. I attached January, February, and March that outlines their metrics. And so what they provide with us is their fill rates based on lead time, their overall absence. Yeah.
Do you want to share that with us on the screen? Sure. Or do you? Okay, that'd be great. Thank you.
Absolutely. Here is March. Can everyone see my screen okay?
No, I'm not seeing it.
I can see your screen. Just
We're seeing your file manager that shows your files.
How about now?
Nope, we're seeing file manager.
Oh, I'm sorry. I had this working earlier today. My apologies. Let me see if I can figure out what I'm doing.
Were you going to go through the January, February, and March reports that you had up there?
Yeah. So really
I can present.
Okay, that'd
if you
be
want to
great.
stop presenting, I'll do it.
Thank you. All
Are
right.
you seeing that screen?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. So as you can see, Teachers on Call, they walk us through fill rates based on lead time. They provide us with overall absence data with a breakdown of teacher positions, paraprofessional positions. They also give us statistics year to date, including how many substitutes that they've recruited. And we have March up here. And actually, so as of March, they had recruited a total of 62 substitutes. After that, we had a closure due to COVID. And based on that closure, we haven't had any updated data come through Teachers on Call just because of the fact that we're not utilizing their services at this time. But if you look at the fill rate trends on this page, you can see that our fill rates, when we were doing our internal HR processes, we had a better success rate than what Teachers on Call has provided for us. We think a lot of that is probably contributed to the ability to build relationships with our substitutes, our ability to, in a sense, sell assignments, split jobs. We understand what our sub preferences are in the buildings. And overall, we were just able to create flexibility for our subs. And we really experienced a higher success rate when we were doing everything internally. Some things that we've experienced along the way as well with some HR related items is, so their standards for a background check didn't align with some of the standards that we had. So we had conversations with Teachers on Call. They had a very extensive rubric in terms of what they would allow for somebody to come in and sub. And we found that we probably had probably some more stricter rules in terms of like what our standards were for somebody to be a sub in our district. So we had to work through some of those things. We also found too that if a sub was not a good fit in our district, they had different internal processes that we had to go through in order to recommend a sub, not maybe sub in a particular building or throughout the district overall. So currently we are paying subs, it's $138 a day. So the breakdown for that is $105 for a daily rate. And then we pay a 28% service fee on top of that. And so what we're asking for is that the board consider discontinuing this contract so we could utilize some of those savings to increase our daily sub rate, bring that back internally through our own HR internal processes to see some of those success stories again in terms of fill rates and building those relationships with our substitutes. And to overall support student achievement. And if anybody has any questions, I can entertain any questions that you have.
Hi, this is Megan. Do you mind if I ask? Okay, so I guess I just heard from a lot of substitute teachers last year, particularly those who are retired, former teachers for Beloit, that Teachers on Call was highly problematic, that it's been just expensive and problematic. We had one teacher, it took her like 5 months to get whatever she needed through DPI. And I would be delighted to not renew any kind of contract with Teachers on Call for that reason and more. Is there any reason to keep it? Or is this something that we can kind of wash our hands of and just reinvest in paying our subs better?
I think we have a lot of opportunities internally to drive successful sub-fill rates, to build those relationships. I think we probably haven't had some positive experiences with Teachers on Call. I don't want to totally disregard the services that they've provided. I think when they probably researched the service, from what I understand, is that they painted the picture that substitutes would receive pay increases. There were opportunities for benefits, and I'm really not sure if that's come to fruition for those folks.
Yeah, thank you very much for speaking to that.
Tanya,
And Megan,
how much?
can I add?
Let's see. You said there's.
Okay,
Go ahead,
sorry. I just wanted to add, Megan, one of the components that I know prior HR was looking at is the ability for retirees to come back faster than the 75-day WRS absence, because that was required, because they would be able to be employed by another entity, not the school district. They were not hitting that 75-day absence that they could not work. So that was one of the highlights as well, that they really pushed and encouraged, and they thought that that would be a positive side. However, our retirees had not necessarily been through all of the DPI processes that Teachers on Call would require for them to become teachers with a new employer, because they have worked in Beloit for years, or had just retired. It wasn't that they had been changing careers. I do feel that if we invested, at part of that 27% that we're paying to Teachers on Call to raise our sub rates for all our categories, we would experience much better fill rates on our own, as far as getting those candidates. And I think that does outweigh some of the issues that we've had as well.
So then just to clarify, when hopefully we vote to terminate this contract, that money is going to be reinvested in paying our building subs better, or recruiting substitutes at a higher rate so we can be competitive with other districts. Is that correct?
Both.
Yes.
I would,
and I anticipate keeping our budgets the same, but that 20% that was already allocated for that difference would be put into our recruitment efforts and increasing our sub rates.
Thank you.
Joanne or Tanya, how much additional work is this going to be for HR? Because they obviously are bringing it back in. Teachers on Call was doing a lot of the administrative stuff. That's going to actually, somebody's going to have to do that. Have you taken that into account?
Yeah, so one of my team members had taken the lead on this, and when Teachers on Call came into place, duties were shifted from her, and so she took on other duties. And so what we can do is disperse some of the HR internal duties amongst the team. So we are looking at a plan in place, and so we may have to revise a job description or two, and if need be, we can always bring that to the board as well. But I don't foresee like an additional cost to bringing that internally. We did it well for years, and so I think it's just like riding a bike, and I think we can pick up where we left off.
And I would just like to remind the board that when we brought into, or the committee, I'm sorry, when we brought this in, I did not purposely fill the HR generalist position while we evaluated the needs and the requirements. And so that FTE was unfilled this year. And that may be a position that, as Tanya's saying, we may have to bring back to have that full group, but it is not an FTE that would be an addition to. We've already had it. It is one that has been vacant this year only for the purpose of us evaluating the HR staff.
Okay, thank you. Yep. All right, any other questions?
One thing I just want to add is that when I was substitute teaching through the school district, I had the experience of having HR calling me and talking to me. And as you guys said, they built a relationship with me. They knew what classes I like to go to, what buildings I preferred. And I I liked it a lot. And if you guys are like, as long as we stick to, we're going to take some of that money that we're going to be saving, putting it back into getting and increasing pay for subs per day. I'm sure you're not going to have an issue finding people that would want to sub here. I know a lot of the other substitute teachers, as we talked and stuff, that the pay was the huge issue. It was like, well, I could go to another school district and make an extra $15 or $20 a day. So I think this is going to be a good thing for us.
Thank you. I appreciate that feedback.
John, this is Amy. I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, Amy.
Why did we make the move from it? I know Cindy Daly used to have a large hand in scheduling the subs before Teachers on Call. Why was the decision made to move away from that setup?
That was a decision that was made by prior HR and administrative. That was done in actually 2018-19 school year. And they implemented it with the 19-20 school year as the first time. So unfortunately, I cannot give you a lot of background on why that decision was made. Sorry, I can't give you much more than that.
I think Amy, well, I was actually coming on the board at that time when that was approved. And that was under, Don Childs was the superintendent at the time. He was the interim. And I think that the idea behind it was there was going to be a cost savings. There was by outsourcing it, and that there would be a better fill rate. And I think that what we've experienced has been, I don't think that we were delivered what we were told we were going to get. So I think that's been part of the problem. And I think that what Spencer had mentioned and alluded to, the relationship building, really kind of went by the wayside. And I think it was very impersonable as far as how people were being handled. Not to mention the pay was lower too.
Thank you.
So if there aren't any other questions, I would love to make a motion to terminate our contract with Teachers on Call.
I will second.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. Let's see, for all those in favor, move approval to recommend termination of Teachers on Call contractual services for the 2020 to 2021 school year to the full board. Indicate by saying aye.
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 All those opposed, or I say aye. All those opposed, motion carried.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right, the next meeting date, I'm not going to bring up future agenda items because I think we've gotten pretty good about adding that onto the spreadsheet and through board docs. Next meeting date is going to be August 4th, Tuesday at 5:15. So with that being said, move for adjourn, or do we get a motion for adjournment, please?
I move to adjourn.
Second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor, say aye.
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 Thank you very much, everyone. Appreciate it.
to order then. May I have a roll call for attendance, please?
Anderson,
Here.
Delgado,
Here.
Jacobs,
Here.
Larson,
Here.
Levy,
Here.
Miller,
Present.
Wong.
Here.
All members are present virtually.
May I have approval of the agenda, please?
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the agenda. Any questions or discussion regarding the agenda? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the agenda is approved, which brings us to 2A, approval of interim superintendent coaching. And our new interim superintendent, Dr. Dan Keyser, will start us off on this discussion.
Thank you. So bring this item before the board for consideration and approval. When I was first going through the interview process, I spoke a lot about my strong belief in instructional coaching, and that if I were selected as the candidate, that would be something that I would want to pursue, is having a coach to be a coach. And as it turns out, through the discussions, I was asked to consider Sue Green as my potential coach. And in talking with her, I feel that not only could she be a coach, but she'd be a coach and mentor as I move into this position and into the district. In the past, or at least for the past 5 years, in talking with her, she has been an administrator coach, mainly for the principals and assistant principals for the past 5 years, and has had that she gave me the history of how she came about with Superintendent Tom Johnson reaching out and talking with her. So she has a history not only with the district as an employee, but also a history with her background of being a superintendent, even though it was in a smaller district for several years. And then the last 6 years has been the interim superintendent here. I feel with her coaching background and her life experience background, she is the right fit for me. She will help support my development, and I feel will, because of her work with this board and this district, be a good alignment with the direction that the district wants to go. When asked about how she had been compensated in the past, it had been a stipended rate per individual. For administrators, it has been $10,000, and that has remained consistent. I asked her specifically about coaching a superintendent, and that being a different role. After some consideration and reflection on her part, she felt that the work that she would be doing with me would be a minimum at the start of 2 hours face-to-face per week, longer if I need it. Any consultation at as I need in terms of phone calls, emails, coming back into the office for follow-ups. She has a program that she would be delineating with work on her side and my side that would be accomplished each week, that would align to the work that I'm doing in the district and the work of developing me as a superintendent. And then follow-ups. And so areas that would that I would be working on, she would be more than willing to provide updates to Kyle or to the board as a whole on areas that I've been working on as part of that work. So with that in mind, she is really reflective in that if this is approved, it would more than likely affect if or the number of other administrators she would want to coach this year. We said we would table that discussion for the next part of the conversation after this conversation and see where it goes. In a context of the cost, while I don't have direct numbers because I did not, because of the fit, did not seek to reach out to other organizations that do coaching, but I do know from past experiences of myself, when I ask for coaching work to be done in districts that I've worked in, I pay on the upwards of $1,500 for a day's worth of work. And that could be prep work and up to about 6 hours of contact time. So that would be roughly the best comparable I could summarize in terms of if I were to go out and seek out a coaching role for myself with another organization, that's kind of the metric that I have available at this point. So I feel that it's a good, not only a good fit, it is a significant amount of money. $15,000 is definitely money that is out there, but I feel that it is well worth it in the sense of the work that we have laying before us and wanting to affect the change that we are wanting with our within our district and with the community in terms of climate, culture, trust, transparency, and the short-term goals that we are going to be setting for ourselves. We want to make sure that we can have all of those pieces moving forward. So with that, I'll open it up for questions, comments, concerns that board members may have.
I have a question, and Dan, this might be for you and for Kyle. I'll start with you, Kyle. Since we don't have access to policy right now, were you able to find kind of where the line is between what the board needs to approve, what dollar amount? That would be helpful to me.
Yeah.
And then my other question, Dan, maybe you can field this one, is what budget would this be coming out of? Is this the superintendent's budget? Is this something else?
Mm-hmm. That's a great question, Amy. So initially when posed that question and thinking about it, I was like, this is a role that supports me. So I would initially say that would be the superintendent's budget. In doing a little bit more research, there is, and if I misspeak, Joanne, please jump in and correct my thinking, that there is a budgeted item that Sue had typically been paid out of. So even if we say that it is the superintendent's budget, it probably would get recoded to wherever she was being paid out of over the past several years. Am I saying that correct, Joanne?
Yes, you are correct. There is a coaching and district account that has been used to pay her coach and mentor stipends and other coach and mentors that we've had. Carol Fox has also performed in that mentoring.
Right.
So just for clarification, Kyle, were you able to find in policy, is this something that the board would need to approve? And then just as like a point of reference, is there a threshold dollar amount where anything under than this, we're just being notified, anything above this threshold, we're approving?
No, this does come to the board for approval because it technically is a personnel rec. So traditionally when any of the administrator coaches are approved, we don't approve the contract itself because that's all handled through HR, but they do show up like on a personnel rec. We wanted to do this one sooner rather than wait until personnel rec's on the 14th, so that would be kind of, because she is working now, so we could get her paid and get all that stuff going for her. And the threshold is $25,000. So anything under $25,000, the board does not have to approve.
Perfect. Thank you. And maybe we can handle this on Monday when we're doing short-term goals, but is our practice going to be that things actually come through policy and personnel?
My assumption, with this being on the agenda for tonight, I think it was due to the need to have Sue, they wanted to have her start right away, but it would be recorded on the personnel recommendations that you would be getting on the 14th meeting for record purposes. But I believe this was getting approval from the full board so that Sue could start immediately.
Exactly.
And Amy, forgive me for speaking for you, but I just for my clarification, I guess, in going forward though, Amy, I think you were asking that something like this in the future will go to policy and personnel first, correct?
Right. And I don't want to belabor the point, but this is the second time in 2 meetings that we bypassed policy and personnel. And I don't want us to get into bad habits. And Stephanie, for the record, you never have to apologize for speaking to me.
Thanks, Amy.
Okay, are there any other questions or discussion or motion?
I'll move approval of coaching for the interim superintendent for the 2020-2021 school year as proposed.
I second.
I second that.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the interim superintendent coaching for the 2020-2021 school year as proposed. Are there any other questions or discussion?
I don't know if this will lead to discussion, but I will just say that I think $15,000 is a high price tag, and that breaks down to $12,050 a month. And in the original documentation we received, it was for 1 to 2 hours per week. So I am slightly encouraged that Dan said it would be a minimum of 2 hours a week. But from my perspective, even when you look into prep work and follow up, $1,250 a month seems excessive to me.
Okay, any other questions or discussions? Seeing none, all in favor of approving the coaching for an interim superintendent for the 2020-2021 school year as proposed, please say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, the motion carries. And the coaching for the interim superintendent for the 2020-2021 school year has been approved as proposed. Brings us to item 2B, approval of attendance at the Speak Out Summer Institute, which was, Amy found this and forwarded it to me. The cost is $49 per person. It is July 13th, 14th, 15th, and 16th for a few hours in the day. It is a virtual meeting. Michelle, were you able to find out if they're recorded, you can watch them later?
Yeah.
You can.
Yes, she told me that as long as you're registered, you would get the recording. You can either watch it again or you can watch it later. I did explain that we had some people that would be working during the day and might not be able to attend at the time that they're scheduled.
Fantastic. Registration does close the 10th, it looks like. So are there any board members who are interested in attending?
Absolutely, I'm interested in attending.
Okay, so Megan?
I'll attend.
Spencer?
I support the idea.
Okay, Maria?
I am as well.
Okay, Amy?
Please include me.
Okay. And I would like to as well.
Kyle, I would like to as well if able.
Okay.
Kyle?
Yes, Stephanie?
So if I can do a recorded one then if I can't be available during the time, correct?
Yep, absolutely.
Awesome. Okay. I'm in.
All right, so we do need a motion then to move approval of the board and Dr. Keyser participating in the Speak Out Summer Institute. Now, if any administrators would like to participate, they can use their own budgets and register themselves. So I don't want to say like the motion makes it sound like we're excluding administration from doing this, from participating. But so are there any other questions or is there a motion?
I have a question, Kyle. I guess I'll ask Dan. Dan, will this be offered to other, I'm just thinking of building principals right now in particular?
Absolutely. Can send out communications to administrators to let them know that this is something that the board and myself are participating in, and if they are interested in that they have my approval to register for that.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you for the question.
All right. Any other questions or a motion?
I move that the board approves 8 slots, including all board members and Dr. Keyser for the Speak Out Summer Institute happening on July 13th through the 16th at a cost of $392 total.
I'll second.
We have a motion and a second to approve the 8 slots for the Speak Out Summer Institute for the board and Dr. Keyser in the with the overall cost. It was 300. What, Amy? What was that total amount, please?
392.
392.
Thank you so much. All right. Is there any other questions or discussions? All right. Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right. The motion carries and 8 slots will be approved and registered. So Michelle will register us and then send us the information. Thank you. Brings us to our last agenda item, approval of interim superintendent attendance and participation in workshops, seminars, and the Superintendent Academy.
Thank you. The order that they're in, I'll just take that from board docs. So the first of the 3 that I have listed is the AVID one-day leadership seminar. I appreciate the cost if we were to attend. AVID has moved all of their summer learning into a virtual format. Not if you are unfamiliar with AVID as a system for college and career readiness, this is a great opportunity to get some background knowledge and understanding about what this is all about. You've heard me speak in the interviews about my intersection with AVID and my belief around their work in closing the achievement gap by preparing students for college and career readiness. A very strong equity focus. I know a lot of the individuals who are leading that workshop. I am checking in on if the actual cost. Generally, it is free to any board member or superintendent or executive director who has not attended one before. Otherwise, it is usually $99. But I'm checking in on that just to confirm that, which would be significantly less than if it was going to be held in the face-to-face. So if there's a cost, it would be only that. And then it is a mix of both synchronous and asynchronous learning. So they would give us information ahead of time to prep. There would be a lot of learning and dialogue and discussion during the day, and then follow up afterwards. So that's the first. And I'm not sure if people want to ask questions after each one, or if you want me to go through all 3 and then ask questions at the end.
If you don't mind questions in between, that would be great. My first question is, when is this being held?
Absolutely. So the dates for what would be closest to us would be Minneapolis. So it would be July 29th would be the date that we're targeting here, because they are doing them by time zones as opposed to having one standard piece. So Minneapolis would be the one for the central time zone. And so that's the date that I'm targeting at this point. If we were to choose another one, it would be based on their time zone. So it could shift anywhere from an hour to 2 hours one way or the other. Good question.
Perfect. And did I hear you correctly? Is this is going to be virtual?
Correct. It will be virtual.
Okay, so we wouldn't have the hotel and the mileage cost that's listed?
Correct. The one pager that was in there was developed when prior to all of this happening with COVID-19. So they have moved all of their Summer Institute training to virtual.
Perfect. And then just to kind of get out of the way of your presentation, is that true for the WASDA legal seminar in the first year? I understand the fall may have not been decided already, but are the next two virtual as well?
The WASDA first year's academy is yes. For the fall, they are doing virtual. They are thinking that the superintendent conference could still be face-to-face. They haven't made that determination yet, but if they do virtual, then those costs would go down. For the legal seminar, they actually do have two options of doing it up in face-to-face or virtual. And so the cost that's reflected there would be, if approved to go face-to-face, the cost goes down for a virtual.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And then just for clarity, Kyle, is this something that we would approve, or are we just hearing this for information since it's under that $25,000 mark?
Well, we don't typically approve superintendents' attendance at conferences, but it was a stipulation that the board wanted to put in the contract that you had to bring it to the board for approval. So we don't have to. We can make one motion really and just say, we approve his attendance at these conferences, and as well as the expense that may incur, because there's so much going on unknowing, and it comes out of the superintendent budget, which is the superintendent's responsibility to manage, monitor, and execute.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on into the WASDA legal seminar. This is an annual event. They do have smaller one-day kind of legal updates throughout the year, but this is the big one where they bring all of the educational lawyers across the state to one location, and they each take different parts of this. This is the seminar that I believe that Joanne went to a year ago. And it is, I've not attended, but I have heard from other superintendents that this is a very good legal seminar to go to get the most up-to-date information around not only clarifications of laws or changes in laws, but recent court cases to talk about interpretations of the law, as those sometimes change. So which is the reason why I'm asking to attend. I did put down for the in-person so that I would have the opportunity to interact with the lawyers. My understanding is the virtual option is basically they're live streaming it. So the interaction is there, just be via email and kind of a back channel piece. Questions?
I'll do it.
No. This is not important. That's important.
I am. My goal is to make it as comfortable as possible, and it's not.
He's just like, blah, 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 you want.
Megan, are you trying to ask a question? Because I see you're unmuted, but I can't hear you.
I'm good.
Oh. Okay, I'll move on. I can always come back. The WASDA first year Superintendent's Academy, this is something that I've heard wonderful things about, and also was communicated through Kyle in terms of something that would be good for me to attend. And so definitely getting that started. And the great question in terms of it is going to start off virtual monthly meetings with some seminars and workshops along the way. The fall conference is one of those things that they want new superintendents to attend, although it's not included in the overall price. But then they hope that they will move to a face-to-face version later on in the year. Any questions?
Dr. Kieser, when they move to the face-to-face, is it a standing location? Just so we can kind of get an idea of mileage, hotel, etc.
That's a great question. I do not know that off the top of my head. I will gladly follow up on that. And would the board just prefer an email update to that answer to that question?
Yeah, I think that would be good.
Okay. Perfect. I will do that. Okay. Other question?
This is a question maybe for Kyle as much or the rest of the board, but I know with like conferences and conventions that the board is going to, the expectation is that when we come back that we're giving an update. Is that something that we would have an expectation for these conferences as well for the superintendent?
I think that that's a great idea, whether it's something that is done at a board meeting or it is something that's done, in a memo. Dr. Kieser, what do you think about that?
That's a great question. My intent was that these would be great opportunities in superintendent's update, kind of the news of where I am. So if I'm gone for a couple of days to a conference, I think it's only appropriate for the board and for the public to know where I've been and the learning that's been going on. So I'm happy to do a memo and then I'll follow up with part of my superintendent's report.
Okay, if you're going to do it in a report, I don't see the need to do more work and do it twice. Okay. I want to be cognizant of your time and effort and what's easy.
Okay.
No point in double doing it.
Okay. And then the last one is just the fall conference at which would be if it's happening in September, it would be face to face, and then they haven't made a determination if they're going to cancel it and move to a virtual format. So those are the four.
All right. Any other questions for Dr. Kieser, or is there a motion to approve the attendance at these conferences?
I do have a quick question. I don't know if it would. Go ahead, John. I can ask your discussion.
Okay. I move approval of Dr. Dan Kieser's participation and enrollment in the proposed conferences and academies that he's looking to attend.
Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve Dr. Kieser's attendance at the academies and seminars and conferences that he has brought to us tonight. Amy, do you have a question?
I think you muted your mic, Amy.
Oh, I thought I clicked it and just went on my way. Thank you. If I heard you correctly, the Abbott Leadership Seminar is free for superintendents and board members that hadn't attended on July 29th. If it's free and Michelle is registering you, I would be interested in attending if in fact it is available for free for board members that have not attended.
And I will say that I have attended in another district, so I probably will have the $99 cost. But if you've not attended, yes, I'm double checking that, but it would be free then. Yes.
Are there any other board members who would like to attend with Dr. Keyser? I've been to an Avid workshop previously, and it's great to know about the program.
I would be interested.
I would be too.
I would be interested as well.
Yep.
It's all day, isn't it?
Correct.
Okay. Unfortunately, I will. It's a Tuesday, right?
I believe it's a Wednesday. Let me double check here. Yes, it's a
Wednesday.
Yeah, it's a Wednesday.
Oh, I can go then too.
Awesome. Okay, so
Is that something? I'm sorry, Kyle. Is that something that is like recorded, or since it's going to be virtual, correct?
Correct. I will ask that question. Yes.
Yeah, if it's something that it can be recorded, because I won't be able to attend for the full day, but if it's something that is recorded, I would be interested in doing that.
Okay.
Fantastic. So my suggestion would be then to take care of the motions on the table for Dr. Keyser, and then we can make a second motion for Michelle to register the 7 board members, or the 8 board members, or 6. Oh, Lord. Okay, sorry about that. All right. So are there any other questions or discussion on the motion on the table? All right. Seeing none, all in favor of approving Dr. Keyser's attendance and participation in the seminars, academy, and conferences that he has asked for, please say aye.
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 Are there any opposed? All right, the motion carries. Now, is there a motion to register all of the board members minus myself for the Avid workshop?
I move that the board request that Michelle register all board members, excluding Kyle, for the Avid one-day leadership seminar on July 29th.
I'll second that.
All right. So we have a motion and a second for Michelle to register 6 board members, not including myself, for the Avid workshop on July 29th. And that should be free since no one else has attended it previously. Are there any other questions or discussions? All right, seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, the motion carries, which brings us to our last item of adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I move we adjourn.
Is there a second?
I second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to adjourn. Any other questions or business we haven't taken care of? All right, seeing none, all in favor of adjourning, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone, for making it to the short meeting so we could get some things going. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.